Today on Mag's Handy Gadgets, we're going to be taking this really thick chuck steak, and it is a roast, but it's a steak. We're going to turn it into a beautifully thick chuck steak. It's about 2.5 inches thick, and we're going to use our sous vide function on our Instant Pot to do it and make it perfectly medium rare in the middle and tender and juicy. Now this is as thick a steak that I've ever done in the Instant Pot as far as a sous vide function. So we're going to find out together how it's going to turn out. That's really thick, and hopefully it turns out really good. And we're going to be searing it up afterwards in our cast iron frying pan. So that'll be good. Yeah, before we sous vide our steak, we're going to have to pat it dry. Make sure it's nice and dry all around, on the bottom too, and the sides. Pat it dry. Drier the better right now. Alright, that looks good. Alright, now we're going to put a little bit of salt on there. Generous coating of salt. Make sure you put salt. You can use kosher salt, you know, table salt, any kind of salt you have, but make sure you coat it good. Then we're going to put some salt on this side. Coat it good. Make a nice coating there. And we're going to put a little bit of garlic on there. I use garlic powder because sometimes the cloves make it taste a little bit bitter. And we'll put a little bit of garlic on this side. Now you can salt the sides. We'll do a little bit of the sides here. And you can see just how thick that steak is. It's going to be thick. And with all that connective tissue in there, the sous vide function is going to really take care of that. So, alright, now all we have to do is bag that up. Now we just take one of these, just a regular ZipLock bag, and we're going to put that right in there. Just like that. And we're going to seal him up. And we're going to put them in our Instant Pot, and we're going to set the sous vide function to 24 hours. And that's coming up next. Okay, now all we have to do is open our Instant Pot lid. And we'll take out our pot and fill it with water. Put our pot full of water in there. And now all we have to do is put our steak in there, and that's a thick one. So we'll put that right in there and let the water displace the air out of the bag. And we have a straw in here to get any extra air out. And just push it down in there. Seal him up good. Pull it over here next to the straw. Pull the straw out. And seal him up. And there you go. That's all you have to do. Now we put our lid back on. And now all we have to do is set our pot. Okay, all we have to do is set our Instant Pot to sous vide. And we're going to set it to 24 hours at 130 degrees. And we're going to hit start. Okay, between 130 and 134 is medium rare, and that's what we want. So, and then when that's all done, we'll sear him up in a cast iron skillet and make him taste really good. So I'll bring you back when it starts to cook and the preheating's done. Yep, while the Instant Pot's preheating, you know what it's time for, don't you? Something cold to drink. That sounds good. Okay, it's done preheating, and we have 24 hours on the clock at 130 degrees, and for you it'll be just like this, but for me, I'll see you in 24 hours. There you have it. Our sous vide thick chuck roast steak is done. Now just hit cancel. Now that's been 24 hours at 130 degrees, and we'll take a look at it together. Pat that dry, and then we'll sear it up in our cast iron skillet. So let's get to it. Okay, let's open the lid on our Instant Pot. See how we did in there. Okay. Now let's take a look. Oh yeah, look at the juices in there. Yep, that's definitely going to make a nice juice for our steak. Looks good so far. Alright, let's get him out of there. Okay, we're going to take our chuck steak out of the bag here, but we're going to get some of the drippings out of here and make a nice juice out of those drippings. So we're going to take this and open this up, and we're going to get a pitcher, and we're going to drain some of the juices out of there and see if we can get them out. Yeah. Okay, that's good. Now we'll save that and we'll make a nice juice out of it. So we'll put that aside. Now we're going to take this plastic bag. I think it would be best just to go ahead and cut it. Just like that, open it right up. And we'll just go ahead and flip that right out of there. And we'll take some of the drippings there and put them aside. Now what we're going to do here is we're going to pat this dry, and then we're going to re-season it, and then we're going to use our cast iron skillet and sear it up really good around the edges and everything. So that should make it taste really good. Okay, we pat the steak dry. It's pretty good here, and it's very thick. You can see that. Very thick. Now we're going to sear this up in a cast iron skillet, but before we do that, we're going to go ahead and salt and pepper it and put some more seasoning on there and make it taste good. So it looks pretty good right now. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll put a little salt. And we'll put a little pepper. And we're going to use a little garlic here, garlic powder. And you can even put some onion powder on there. That's what I'm doing here. Put some onion powder on there. Now we're going to flip it over. Do the other side. Put a little salt. A little bit of pepper. Like pepper? Yeah, me too. And some garlic. And we're going to put some onion powder on this too. Now you can do your sides. You can dip it in the seasonings that you got left on your plate here, like I'm doing here. That's good. And you can tell it's pretty well seasoned. Put a little more salt on the end here. A little bit extra pepper on the end. Alright. Do the same to the other side. And a little extra pepper on the end here. Alright, that looks really good. Let's just go ahead and get that ready for the pan. And I'll bring you back when we start to sear up our steak here. That is really thick, and I think it's going to be really tender. Okay, to sear our steak in our cast iron skillet, we're going to set our burner to medium high. And let that pan get nice and hot. We're going to put some oil in the pan. And we'll let that get really hot. So medium high will be about 425 degrees. Our chuck steak should really sizzle when it hits that pan. I love that sound. Okay, our pan's nice and hot. So we're going to put our chuck steak right in there. There we go. All right. Now we'll let that go maybe a minute and a half or two. We're looking for about 134 in the middle here with our meat thermometer. 130 to 134 would be medium rare, so that's what we're looking for. Okay, it's been about a minute and a half. Let's take a look at it. Okay, it's very nice. Okay, we flipped it over. Now let's let that go another minute and a half on that side. And we'll see how we're doing. Okay, it's been about a minute and a half on the other side there, so let's go ahead and get some of our edges here. Don't forget your edges. Especially these are very thick. That's pretty good. I'm going to just lay it flat a little bit here. And then we'll flip it over and sear this side one more time here. And then we're going to use our meat thermometer here and just see what the temperature is on the inside there. That's pretty thick, so we'll check it out. Let that go maybe a minute. Okay, it's been about a minute. So let's see if we can flip it. I bet you this is going to be really tasty. That's got a nice charring on there. Got a nice crust forming. That's good. Another minute or so, and then we're going to just go ahead and check it with our meat thermometer. Okay, let's check that with our meat thermometer and see where we're at. Oh, we got to get that out of there. That's not... Oh. We're about in the middle, right about there, so 136, 135, 136. Okay, we're done. Okay, let's get that out of there. Alright, look at that. Now we got to let that rest because that is really thick and it's still cooking. So we'll let that meat rest. A beautiful chuck steak. And while that's resting, we'll make an au jus out of the drippings that are in the pan here. We'll let our pan reduce the heat and let it come down to a simmer so that we don't burn our au jus. Yeah. That'll make a nice one. I can smell it, the tastiness of that au jus right now. Yep. All right, I'll bring you back when I start to make the au jus. Okay, I'm going to put some butter in the pan here. We'll let that melt. And we'll make sure our pan's deglaze a little bit here. Look at all them good flavor bits in there. Oh, this is going to be a good au jus when we're done here. Cast iron pan stays nice and hot though. You got to let her cool down some. I did a few minutes, but it's still hot. Nice buttery au jus. Alright, let's go ahead and pour in our drippings from our sous vide process. And we'll reduce that down a little. Okay, our au jus is reduced down. Now we're going to add our wine, drinking wine, not cooking wine. And it's about 1/4 cup. And we'll stir that in. And we'll let that incorporate and reduce down just a little bit, and that'll be good to go. I bet you that's really tasty with the charred bits and the onion powder and the garlic, salt and pepper. Yeah, bet you it tastes really good. Okay, we'll let that go. Okay, here's our really thick sous vide chuck steak for 24 hours at 130 degrees. So let's see how it is. Oh yeah, that is really beautiful. Look how that slices. You're gonna love this one. I just want to get a little piece of that right off there. Yeah, that is really, really good. Alright, let's take another piece here, a little bit thicker one. It's so tender. I can tell how tender that is. Look at that. Beautifully tender. You can't beat that right there. Man, is that juicy? Really juicy. Well, let's slice one more off there and we'll see. That's a thicker one, so let's see how that is. Oh yeah, maybe I can show you. Look at that. That's done so perfectly. That sous vide process of this thick steak is really good. You can't beat it. Yeah, you know what I almost forgot? Usual. Our Au Jus. There you have it. A beautiful, thick, juicy, tender chuck steak. And it is thick too. So I'm going to have a little taste though. Take a piece off the end here. Really thick. And juicy. See the crust? Beautiful. Oh yeah, that is tender. Very tender. Let's have another little piece here. Dip it in the Au Jus. Oh, that Au Jus, you ought to taste the butter that's in there with that garlic and onion powder. That's beautiful. Okay, guys. There you have it. A beautiful, tender, thick chuck roast that we turn into a really nice steak. That's over 2 inches thick in spots here. Probably over here. Well, there you go, guys. If you want to cook a really tender, juicy chuck steak that's this thick, like 2.5 inches thick, this is the way to go. Yep. 130 degrees for 24 hours. Sous vide in an Instant Pot. You can't beat that. I think I'm going to do them this way from now on. It's really tasty, and I had a bite, and I dunked it in our Au Jus, and boy, is that Au Jus buttery and tasty. I can only say wow about that. Now all I have to do is figure out what happened to the bottle of wine I had laying out here. When we made the Au Jus, I had it sitting right here. That can't be going, that's too big. Well, you know what's going to happen. If I can't find it, I'm going to have to open up another bottle. That sounds normal.